Today I'm going to present information needs in digital product passports, discussing data framework and reasonability. The paper is structured in 5 parts. So motivation, so what led us in Porto University and University of Salford in UK. I'm here on behalf of Mustapha Munir from Salford University, Diego Calvetti and Hipólito Sousa from Porto University. So what led us to discuss this and research on this aspect? The methodology that we used, then working the framework, I'm going to get there, the business value and the conclusions. Sorry, it's double there. So first fact, used to talk in these conferences about digitalization. Now, then there were other guys talking about sustainability. Now the buzzword is twin transition. And actually this is very interesting because it seems that it is this twin transition that will make things happen, because if digitalization itself was not getting the pace that or the rhythm that we wanted, but with sustainability, many people in policy domain think that it will happen in the both ways. And actually, we are in accordance, we agree with that, because IT and data are key for both transitions. So this is a first fact that is relevant. A second fact, this is actually an expansion of the sustainable built environment vision that was firstly produced in 2020 by Construction Products Europe. We added a few things such as ecodesign, waste framework directive, waste audits, digital permits, and digital twin, because we like this sustainable built environment vision because it was the first one where we had environment, technical performance, waste, and digitalization. So 4 dimensions that are key for the twin transition. And then we add a lot of other things that we found that were missing. So this is the second fact where we can see, have an overall perspective of all elements. At the center we have digital product passports, and digital product passports are being highly discussed in the EU regulation, namely in ecodesign, where chapter 3 is totally devoted to digital product passports. So we have Article 8 explaining what a product passport is, Article 9, general requirements, 10, and so on until 13. And then there is an annex where it states what are the relevant and meaningful properties for digital product passports when we are thinking about circular economy. Also under discussion is the construction products regulation revision. This is not the latest version of it because this was presented last year and huge discussion happened. So they are revising the revision, the proposal revision. So, but in this, we had in Article 78 that the Commission is empowered to build, to the extent as possible, the digital product passports, and then there will be some kind of catalog to store all these passports. So this is, let's say, part of the second fact. Digital product passports will happen in short time, well, somewhere next year. Third fact, if we are talking about construction products, we are talking about manufacturers. So the guys that disclose only this data for example, exhaustion system, or disclose this data for mineral wool. So we need to talk with these guys to see to which extent are they aware of what is coming and what are they willing to do with those requirements. So we use the Stanford SIF horseshoe methodology because we have several intuitions on this topic and getting more practical. So discussion on DPP implementation is the problem that we observed. Stakeholders are not aligned with the requirements, namely manufacturers, and that is our intuition. The theoretical, so the point of departure is the gray literature that exists on the topic, not so much, but some is interesting. Inductive research, focus group, and survey to try to get a data framework or a beta data framework, and also the awareness that there needs to be some incentives to comply with the requirements. So the impacts, we try to raise some awareness at policy level, we hope, and streamline implementation with manufacturers. So working the framework, some sources of the gray literature. There is a very interesting survey on users' need for information on construction products that was developed in 2018. So very good insights on what is needed and what is happening. Then we also have the framework that is being prepared by EU, not just the eco-design and sustainable products regulation and the CPR, but also levels. If we are talking about buildings, levels will be the assessment methodology, so we need to look to it. Of course, we have also taxonomy for sustainable activities, public procurement on buildings, EPD, BD, and that's, well, a lot of things. At this part, we only look to the first three and to the survey. In addition, we went to the manufacturer's level, so EMDG is the European Master Data Guideline that is more related to logistics. So properties that are meaningful for trading. So that is also a thing that we think it should be part of the digital product passports. So we start working on the framework, trying to see where the properties, what properties were meaningful and where were they stand. And we have this. So we have the Declaration of Performance or Construction Products Regulation, eco-design, EMDG, levels. Why eco-design is here? It should not be, it's not required, oh, eco-design, because I misspelled on writing, sorry. Should be there, and not required at all. General EPDs and linking into soil and water. And for people that work in sustainability, EPDs not being relevant is something that we should discuss, but not now. Well, so moving along, we have here a lot of things that are related with this. So these are, let's say, 29 properties that we got, and we want to understand how difficult it was for manufacturers to provide those properties, and on the other hand, how stressful they would be on providing those properties. So we did a questionnaire here, and we had 6 levels, so from easy to very hard on the difficulty, and from peaceful to stressful, only if it is mandatory for the willingness stress. And these are the results. So, and I will take some time with this. We have here very, very interesting, say, spread out on the results. But for example, what we know from eco-design is that carbon environmental footprint, it is something that it will be needed. Curious or not, it is the ones that manufacturers think are more difficult and provokes more stress on them to disclosure. Also, not so difficult because they have this, but they don't want to give that as part of the business value, and we're going to talk about that after. Acquisition costs. Also the composition. They don't want to provide, and we need this for recycling and reuse, because they think that the secret of the business is somewhere in the composition part. So we have here 3 main properties that will be disclosed, or eventually it will be mandatory to be disclosed by the eco-design directive, that either are difficult to get or cause high stress to manufacturers. And then we have the rest, okay? For example, weight, that is something that often is not disclosed. They think it's easy and they can do it, and actually it will be very interesting for reuse, recycle, because when we are looking to that dimension, we need to think on weight and not on cost. That is also a mindset change that will require some exercise and something from us, civil engineers or architects. So, this is what we think are the dimensions for the business value of product information value for manufacturers. And there are, well, different approaches depending on the size of the manufacturer. So the paper details what are the bets and the concerns that most manufacturers or some manufacturers have, and we use some comparisons on that. And well, most of the ones that are stressful are here on the sustainability aspect. So, some results. Thank you. Some results. DPP understanding and the data framework still need to be better understood by the stakeholders, meaning manufacturers, design teams, contractors, supervision, but also at policy level also, some. All meaningful characteristics should be part of digital product passports and not just the ones related to sustainability. What we want to say here is that if we already have declarations of performance, that those properties should be part of the digital product passport, should not be aside. Logistics, the same, okay? So that is something that we are, trying to look for. The data framework management should be part of line, so level of information need. These purposes, defining the purposes can be very interesting to tune up the properties for the next phases. There are many dangers on the requirements that are being set in what relates to manufacturers' will on disclosing data. So basically what I mentioned, we need to look, or someone needs to look to the willingness of manufacturers on disclosing data in the conditions that exist nowadays, okay? If conditions change, things might change. Most properties associated to sustainability are either difficult or cause stress, and we think that policy actions might be needed to tackle this situation if implementation is really to occur. Limitations of this study. So the research, we had a small sample available in this research. We talked with very, very proficient people on digital product passports and on manufacturing for 8 people, but it's a small sample. So we were seeking to get a wider sample, even though we think that the level of proficiency on digital product passports will go a bit down. The number of properties under evaluation was 29. Well, too much for some people. Well, we think that it should be more, but well, the willingness, we were studying the willingness, and 29, some of them said, yeah, it took me a long time to do it. And the detail of the survey focus group, we want to have more questions, so that's a problem. Future work, we will follow up the proposals discussion. We will try to expand the sample. We will continue to structure digital product passport data framework and then define use cases to be discussed with manufacturers. And thank you.